Willkommen, bienvenue, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is more of a, how do I say it, like a what not to do when restoring vintage dolls. Now, I have taken a lot of reference from DoeDeer.com and other videos that I may have used some of the methods, but mainly all of my stuff is from DoeDeer.com. Because I want to restore my vintage dolls. A lot of them are in bad shape because I really don't spend too much money on them. More for the fact that I'd rather give a home to a doll that needs some love than to buy a pristine one in the wild, if that makes any sense. So, if you are into restoring Barbies and Kens, call this video. Maybe. First things first, let's go ahead and look at Ken. So, as you can see, he is slightly discolored. His head doesn't match his torso, and his legs look like they're about the same color as his torso, but they could use a good cleaning. He does have some markings here on his arm. Looks like somebody tried to highlight him at some point, but you can see his face needs a little love and care. The paint on his hair is still in good condition, however, his skin tone is very, very light. His eyebrow needs to be repaired, a little bit of the eyeliner needs to be repaired, and his lip tone is completely gone. His head slightly turns, but you can see that it's very dirty. So the first thing we gotta do is get him cleaned up. Let's go ahead and do that. Side note, I feel that these pieces came from another doll, and these two were its original, as the legs are a little difficult to remove. The rest of it just popped off like that, and popped off of here. It needs a very large amount of cleaning. Side note, but yeah, we gotta get him cleaned up. I'm gonna use Dawn dish soap first, and then if that doesn't work, maybe a magic eraser. But I do not want to mess up his face paint, so let's go get that cleaned up. Like I said, I'm using Dawn dish soap to gently clean the dirt away from him, and using an old toothbrush to give it a good scrub without taking his face paint off. I did end up using a emery board to get some of the grime off of his neck hole, but other than that, it's not noticeable. You can't see the scratches, but I did get it cleaned. Just take your time and use what you have. Right here, I'm basically using the hot water to soften his legs so that I can remove them to be able to clean the interior of his body and some of the areas that I cannot reach with the toothbrush. Be very careful, but softening the vinyl does help out, so use warm water for that. I'm also going to put him into a denture cleaner solution to get all the other areas that I cannot get, and also to give him a little bit of a lighter tone, because this will bleach him a little bit but not noticeable enough. Just mainly to get him all cleaned. I put him in the sun and left him for a few hours. Now the next step is to bring back the flesh tone of his skin back to what it looked like. I used some synthetic dyes. I used 1 tablespoon of pink and 1 tablespoon of red. In hindsight, this was too much. I should have just used a pinch of the red, because you'll see what happens shortly. But again,
I hope this works.
Learn from your mistakes.
left it in a little too long. So he looks like he's got a sunburn on everything. So to counteract red more here, I gotta get a green. So I gotta order some green dye and we can try this again. Because, yeah, that doesn't match. He looks like he's got a sunburn. So gotta get some green dye and try this again. So, if color theory actually works the way it's supposed to, I got some green dye, and green should counteract the red. We'll give this another try, and if this doesn't work out, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So, let's go ahead and go back to the old kettle, fill her up, and put a little dye in it. Well, color theory didn't work. I think I'm just gonna have to go chemical. Let's go ahead and try something else. I'm going to just lather him up benzoyl peroxide and put him out in the sun.
So I lathered him up with benzoyl peroxide and then sealed him in some cling film. This is to help that the benzoyl peroxide does not dry out while it's sitting in the sun, because that's even more of a pain to get off than some paints.
Get all the air out of there so it can do its thing. Twist the ends. Yeah, I go leave them out on the front porch, or back porch, or a porch in the sun for several hours. We'll see what happens.
2 hours later.
And just 5 hours of sitting out in the sun with benzoyl peroxide, it did not come off 100% or lighten 100%. But I'm not going to push my luck because, again, I've never done this before. You can still see some of his staining that he had previously, and I plan on putting him in a long sleeve shirt anyways, so you can see not all the red came off, but I did lighten significantly to his skin tone. You can see here the staining that he did have, and his face. His lips are green, and his hair is green, so that's going to be a paint job. But it matches a whole lot better to his original skin tone. So, surprisingly, that worked. I've never done this before, but so I dyed him, and I accidentally over-dyed him to pink. Made him look like he had a sunburn, and then I used benzoyl peroxide to lighten what I did up, and I think it turned out perfect match. Now the next thing to do is paint his face. Again, I have a previous Ken that I had that I'm going to use for reference. And I'm going to basically use acrylic paints and match it to the best of my ability. Again, I am no expert. I just want to restore this Ken to somewhat of his original features. I touched up his lips, then I went in and touched up the one eyebrow that was missing a little bit of color and the tail. The hardest part was getting the hair color, because the yellow acrylic that I had was not very pigmented, and I should have used thinner coats because it got really clumpy and also started to lose the hair texture. But with the acrylic, I can go ahead and get coverage pretty quickly, but not opacity. I went back and I sealed everything with Mod Podge so that it would have that same painted look to it that the original Kens and Barbies had. And it just took a little bit of work, but other than that, I think he turned out pretty well.
after painting him up and redoing his hair, or putting several layers, I use a little bit of Mod Podge to seal it all. We can go ahead and do the reveal. So I gotta warm him up and pop his legs back on, because that's how they're gonna go back on, because it's not gonna go in there unless warm him up. So, but here you can see color matching of what he looks like after. It's not 100%. You can see the back of his neck is a little bit more of a gray tone, but I can live with that. And you can see right here under his arm that there's still a little bit of red that didn't come off. But again, I'm not going to push my luck. We're just going to go ahead and put him back together and get him dressed up and do the reveal. Hopefully this inspires you to maybe show a little love to a vintage toy, whether it is Ken, Barbie, or other domains that are out there, such as, Hot Wheels, Lego, and other collectibles such as that. If this information was helpful in any way, shape, or form on how to restore a vintage doll that has gone white, remember to go show DoeDeer.com some love, and if you want to see my versions of them, go ahead and like, share, subscribe, and come back another time for another video that we still have no idea what we're doing. So, until then, cheesy!